Hi, everybody. It's time, actually, it's past time for the Emotional Intelligence Show. And I'm running late today, and I do apologize for that. But let's just get right into it. So last week I had a question from a listener on the show. She wanted to know how to set boundaries with family. And I think it's a really good topic because it's easy to set boundaries when you're not interested or when your level of that's it, go in there. I'm in the hallway. I can't be in my office right now, but you can hear the sirens. We just have to roll with the chaos. Okay, so let's rewind. It's easy to set boundaries when the stakes aren't high, right? It's easy to say no to people you don't know very well, or, it's much harder when you love the person and when you're invested in the relationship. So today we're going to talk about setting boundaries with family. And the first thing I want to say about this is that let's say way back, maybe like 30 years ago, I was in this group on setting boundaries. And the guy who led it was like super upbeat, and he would ask us, where do you want to set a boundary? And then he would ask us what we would say. And if we didn't know, he'd tell us what we would say. And we were like super excited, right? Because now we knew how to set a boundary. But then we'd go to set the boundary and it would be like a complete failure. Like either we couldn't say the words, or we said them and the result was not what we wanted. So I'd like to kind of break the myth that, once you know what to say, how to set boundaries. That's not really the case. So what do you really need to set boundaries? That's what we should talk about. So I will just take Elizabeth's situation. I don't know a lot of details, but I do know that she wants a lot more control over her time. And she wants a lot more, she wants to have more time for herself. She has some issues, health issues that she'd like to address and take better care of herself. So that's really one important thing, is you need to know why you want to set the boundary. Having a really good why is important, because then it's not just about, I will do this, I won't do this. It's about, these are my goals, and I am filtering requests through my goals. Okay, so knowing your why, that's a really important thing. The next thing is, I like to think about what is the worst thing that could happen. And usually the worst thing doesn't happen, but it's good to look at what your mind thinks is the worst thing that could happen, so that you can kind of take a look at it and be like, oh, well, okay, so what could be the worst thing that could happen? Someone's mad at me, they're angry at me. When I need help from them, they won't help me. So it's good to you could even write it down. I like to write things down. I think it's really helpful to get it out of your head and onto paper. And you can just say, this is the worst thing that could happen. And if this happens, is this going to be okay with me? You know, if it's not going to be okay with you, I wouldn't do it, because I feel like you're setting yourself up for an unpleasant experience. So, I mean, there's several ways you could deal with that. You could not do it. You could realize that it's, you know, that you prefer to do it because you don't want to face the fallout. Or you could realize that there's going to be fallout and just know that it's coming. And you could say, you know, I can see you're really upset. It's not my intention to upset you. I have this other pressing thing that I need to take care of. You know, most of the time when people understand that you have something else that you need to take care of, they're very understanding. And just since we're on this subject, a good technique that you can also use is to say, I can't do this whole thing you want me to do, or I can't do this whole thing the way you want me to do it, but I could do this, or I could do it this way, or I could do this part of it. That softens it a little, and it's like trying to find a win-win, which is always good if you can do it, you know, find that win-win. So another thing I would do is write down what I would say. It's a good idea to kind of, you know, have in mind what you're going to say. And here's something fun that I've done before, is to just draw 2 stick figures with little speech bubbles and put, this is what you say and this is what they say. And then you can keep doing it. You know, if they get angry, you can say, you can put in your speech bubble, I can see that, you know, you're really disappointed. You really need me to do this, and I can't do it, you know, because of this reason, or I can do a modified version of it. And then another thing to do is to not say a lot. You know, you want to say just what you need to say and leave space. Because if you start to give a lot of details or give a lot of rationale, you're inviting people to kind of knock down your reasoning for what you're doing, and you don't want to do that. You just want to keep it really simple. And if you get like someone who's going to try to sell you on doing what they want you to do, it's good to have a technique for that. So like, here's something I do. I say, you know, I hear it's really important to you, and I wish that I could do that, but I'm unable to do it this time. And, you know, you can say why or why not. That's up to you. But the less you say, the less you open yourself up to the hard sell. And you don't want the hard sell, because it's your life, and time is not a renewable resource, and you have goals for your life and priorities that you need to protect and you need to take care of. So, and then the thing is, like, if it goes sideways, and you ended up doing it when you didn't want to do it, or the person like was mad and, you know, you got what you wanted, but it's like now you're so focused on this person's, you know, having such a hard time that it hardly seems worth it, right? So I think it takes a while to get really comfortable setting boundaries. It did for me. It took me a long time. And it also takes other things too, like having a certain amount of autonomy so that you have more of a say over your time and what you do. Because if you're really dependent on other people, it's harder to do. It shouldn't be. I mean, we should be able to depend on people, especially because we all will face health issues or traumas or financial problems, and we'll need family and friends to, you know, help us until we can get back to where we want to be. So what I'm saying is there's a fine line to walk there between, you know, being as autonomous as you can be and also having good supportive relationships. And you want to consciously create those two things, healthy relationships and autonomy. Because when you're dependent, like I went from my family to being married. Like I never really had my autonomy until I got older. And it's really important to have and to build so that you do have more choices and you don't feel like you're at the mercy of other people. And that brings me to another thing, like no matter where you are or what kind of relationships you have, you know, you deserve the right to, you know, say what you will do and how and on what terms. And you definitely have the right to make sure there's balance there, to make sure that you're not doing so much and other people aren't doing enough. You want that balance. So that's another important part of boundaries. And I think for women, it's easy for us to forget or pass over how much we contribute. And another important thing for boundaries is to kind of keep an accounting of what you're doing. This isn't to keep score, but let's face it, people know that women, especially older women who were raised a certain way, we're just expected to do a lot of things, like caretaking things. And we do it almost unconsciously. And then when we ask for something, we may not feel entitled or empowered by that asking, because we are not realizing how much we do, how much value we offer. And that's important to know, so that, you know, if you someone comes to you and wants you to do something and you say, I'm sorry, I can't, and maybe they, you know, we've trained them to expect this from them, so expect these kind of things from us. So when we start saying not this time, or not exactly this way, or I need more notice, I need a longer, you know, heads up than at the last minute, people are going to be a little like discombobulated because they're used to like the easy yes. So, so I forgot like where this train of thought was going, but I think you get my point. Yeah, you have to kind of make sure that you're appreciating what you're doing for other people, instead of just thinking of it as like as natural as breathing. Because a lot of women, myself included, being helpful and doing stuff that comes easy to us, we do it without even registering that we're doing it. So it's very important to realize what you're doing and appreciate what you're doing, and notice if the other person is appreciating it too. That's another part of boundary setting. Like I will always, I love giving and I love doing things for people if I can. And when I first meet people, I do those things. But I notice, like, how is it landing with this person? Does it matter to them? Does it not matter to them? If it doesn't matter, I'm not going to do it anymore, because unless I just really want to. And then if I do, I'm going to know it's because I really want to do it. You know, I've done things for people a lot younger than me who don't really, it doesn't seem to make an impression on them, or they don't appreciate it. But I do it anyway, because I used to be that young person who just really didn't really take it all in and appreciate it. So I hope this helps. And if you have any more questions or any more topics that you'd like for me to cover, please, you can PM me or comment on this. You can comment on this video, and I'll do the best that I can to answer your questions. And I hope this was helpful for my listener, Elizabeth. And if I left anything out, feel free to let me know. And if you'd like to get really good at setting boundaries, it's very important to have good emotional intelligence to really connect with your emotions and to tap into their wisdom. Because a lot of times we'll agree to something even though it doesn't feel good. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. You know, learning good emotional intelligence, you get really good at knowing like, what, this is something I definitely shouldn't do. And sometimes it's tricky because maybe you did the same thing last time and it turned out great. And this time when you are going to do it, it doesn't feel right, but you ignore it, right? Because last time it was fine. It takes some guts, you know, to say, you know I did this last time, but this time I'm unable to. And you may not even know the reason why. And then this person might be expecting you to give them a reason and you can't. But when you have good emotional intelligence, you just know that I should not do this. You learn how to trust that. It's so important. And it really raises the quality of your life. So if you would like to work with me one-on-one to really develop your emotional intelligence so that you are more in control and more empowered, you can go on my website, theemotionalintelligenceschool.com, and there's a contact form, and you can send me an email, and I usually get back to you within 24 hours, except on the weekends. And I'm happy to, answer any questions or explore further working together to see if we're a good fit for each other. So thank you so much for coming by and watching this video. I know it's late. This week has been very erratic and chaotic. But thank you so much, and have a good rest of the week. Aloha.